Below Deck Season 11's newest stew Paris Field may have joined the St. David's crew later than her fellow crewmates, but the way Chef Nick Tatlock is treating her is unacceptable. While Chef Nick is the newest member of the St. David crew, his behavior was on full display during his first charter of the season, and many were displeased with the way he spoke to Paris. Chef Nick came into the charter late, replacing Chef Anthony Iracane after he was let go by Captain Kerry Titherage. Despite an outwardly cool demeanor, Chef Nick has already struggled with his behavior. Paris' time on the St. David has been relatively simple prior to dealing with Nick's behavior, especially considering her time aboard super yachts has been extensive. Coming from a background of yachting, Paris has been on the sidelines of Below Deck for years. Having been in a relationship with Below Deck Season 9's deckhand Jake Folger, Paris has relationships with other Below Deck cast members. Coming into the season with a pre-existing relationship with Chief Stew Fraser Olander, Paris was able to fit into the St. David crew without much issue. Now, with Nick joining the team, things have become trickier. Paris is the newest stew aboard St. David. She joined during a difficult time. Paris Field from Below Deck smiling with sunglasses on her head. Paris' journey to joining the St. David crew may have been easier, but the crew had been struggling prior to her arrival on the super yacht. Early on in the charter season, Fraser had a crew of 3 stews for the interior team. Zandy Olivier, Barbie Pasquale, and Kat Baugh were working well together during the first charter when it became clear to Barbie that Kat was struggling to take any sort of direction about the work she needed to do. Kat shared that her experiences aboard super yachts weren't like what she was facing on St. David, which left her stressed. Barbie and Kat had their differences, which made it tough for Fraser to manage the stews. While Kat was having emotional breakdowns and felt like she wasn't able to connect with the rest of the crew, Barbie was struggling to work with someone who wasn't on her level. Both women brought their issues to Fraser, who wasn't able to separate his personal feelings about Kat from his professional behavior. Though Fraser tried to help, Kat continued to spiral, and after feeling overwhelmed for several charters, she chose to leave St. David. Paris was the replacement who took over for Kat. Chef Nick joined the crew after Chef Anthony was let go. He was the replacement for a solid chef. Chef Nick is the newest member of the St. David's crew, but he's appeared to already have made himself welcome with the rest of the staff. After the majority of the charter season was spent with Chef Anthony, things were beginning to deteriorate in the galley. Chef Anthony, who struggles with dyslexia, was having a hard time keeping the kitchen organized while accounting for the differences in what the charter guests were looking for. While the chef was having a hard time, the St. David crew weren't helping out to make things easier. Although Chef Anthony had a high level of skill, he was struggling to prepare dishes that followed the primary guests' wishes, and wasn't able to keep track of everything coming and going from the galley. Ultimately, though he was a skilled chef, Captain Kerry had to let Chef Anthony go, and needed to bring in a replacement. Arriving on an off day, Chef Nick was the style of chef that Captain Kerry had been looking for. Seasoned and set in his ways, Chef Nick may be somewhat quirky. The chef has been able to integrate with the crew. Paris and Chef Nick got off to an odd start. Nick's behavior confused Paris.